This is the School of Balance's monthly interviews, and this month we have the lovely Kim Ingelby from Bristol in England. Kim's a mind and body expert from Energized Performance, and she's here to talk to us all about achieving our goals and some top tips on how we might go about doing so. Hi Kim, really great to have you here.
Hi Sarah, how are you?
I'm very well, how are you?
Yeah, really good. I'm looking forward to the interview, and thanks for asking me. It's really kind of you.
No, thank you so much for joining us here. It's really great to have you here. I was wondering maybe before we start out, if you'd be able to tell everybody on the call a little bit about who you are and what you do in case they don't already know you.
Yeah, of course. My name's Kim, as you know, and I run my business, Energized Performance, which I've done for over 10 years. And we're a company basically that help people feel good about themselves, increase their confidence and performance, be that in sport, business or life. And we specialise with helping women to feel really good about themselves inside and out. We do lots of charity work as well. So we've raised nearly 40 grand for charity, and that's a kind of key value of mine. And it helps people to get involved in sport and get active as well. And then I've won a few awards, which has been really cool. One in America as well, the Personal Trainer to Watch Award. And I think that's quite good because it kind of is like an award for my clients and also encourages me to improve my knowledge and standards as well. So, yeah, that's a little bit about me.
It's fantastic to have you here. I know you work with all different kinds of people, and some of those might have some massive goals. But if you've got someone, joining you and they're starting out, maybe they want to achieve a new goal, what would your top tips be for them to get there and making sure that they set a achievable goal in the first place?
Yeah, I mean, I work with all sorts of people, but the tips for sort of setting a goal and achieving it would be pretty similar. It's about getting really clear on what your goal is. So most people kind of know what it is, but then once we've defined that, I ask them, why do you want to achieve that goal? Like, what is it going to give you? And normally it's quite a sort of external response to start with. So if you use the goal of like losing weight, people say, well, I'm going to feel better and be more confident. And then you say, well, why do you want to achieve that? And we try and find the motivations that are personal for them. We then come up with, so what excuses and what things have you tried in the past that might mean that you might not achieve this goal. So we try and remove them or come up with strategies so that if and when the excuses happen, the person knows what to do to remove them. Mm-hmm. And then there's some good questioning through something called Cartesian coordinates with NLP that you go into, like, what would you gain from achieving this? What would you lose from achieving this? What would you gain by not achieving it? And what would you lose by not achieving it? And those questions are really, really helpful to help somebody define their goal and commit to making it happen. There's so many other things. I mean, they're not really anything that people wouldn't know, but it's sort of like journaling what you're actually doing, building a vision board, believing that it's possible, getting the right support around you. All of those kind of things make a massive difference, and I think a lot of people think about doing them, but you actually have to write it and do it and create a little bit of time. And to change something, to make something happen, you've got to get uncomfortable. So I think knowing why you really want to make something happen makes it easier when it is uncomfortable, when you're changing, if that makes sense.
No, a lot of sense, because you're always going to go through hard times, so it's always, then you've got that base to go back to about the big why. Why is the thing more important than the uncomfort that you're experiencing at that one point in time? It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And it's knowing that, you're probably uncomfortable where you are. So what's of greater value, to get uncomfortable and change to where you want to be, or to get uncomfortable and stay where you are?
Yeah. Exactly. No, absolutely. One of the things I've found the hardest when setting goals for myself, and I guess other people might find the same, is sometimes not dreaming big enough. Perhaps it's a bit of a fear of failure or something. Do you have any advice for how to deal with and cope with this? And what do you do if you do fail and you don't meet your goals?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is it's a really good question. But what I actually find is a lot of people are fear failing, but they also fear success. So
Yeah.
they think that they want the success, but then they actually fear that as well. So they kind of put themselves in the middle ground of being safe. And I think it comes back to the first point of working out your motivations and working out your real why, so your internal why, and then working out your own fears. So not necessarily the fear of failure, but what are your fears around not achieving this goal, but also achieving this goal? And it can come into like your identity, how you see yourself. It might affect your values and your beliefs. You might need to change your environment, so the sort of surroundings that you're in, even just simply to kind of start to change the goal. So you might think, right, I'm going to start to wear something different to begin this journey, or I'm going to buy a new notebook, or I'm going to think slightly differently, or I'm going to visualize or mentally rehearse this to like start my journey. And I think making really small specific goals towards the big goal and journaling what you're actually achieving allows you to create a stepping stone process towards the goal. And then if you get a couple of days wrong, then you're kind of on a path already, so you won't go right back to the beginning. And even if you do, you've got a journal of kind of how far you've already gone. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I'd say. I don't know, does that make sense? Does that help?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's hard. I think it's easy to forget how far you've come. If you've not quite made, whatever you've tried to achieve, but you've come so far, it's hard. It's sometimes easy to forget that.
Yeah, definitely. I think people often celebrate other people's successes, but they forget to celebrate their own success, and also forget that actually tiny little things that make you happy are fine to celebrate as well. Those little things make a big difference, and don't forget to celebrate the little things. And I always say to people, learn how to become your own best friend as well, because I think people are often very hard on themselves, which prevents them being as successful as they want, but also limits their potential to achieve the success as well, because they're always being sort of hard on themselves. So just become your own best friend, and then you'll be kind to yourself, but also kick yourself when it's appropriate.
No, that's very, very good advice. I think a lot of people do that.
Yeah.
You talk to yourself in a way that you'd never talk to your best friend.
Exactly. Yeah. So, but it takes time as well. People listening to this that may not feel happy in themselves will probably think, oh, I don't understand. But it takes time. It takes years and years of continual growth and development and reading and support to change habits that you've maybe had for a long time. So, allow yourself to take that time, but commit to making the changes.
That sounds like excellent advice. Earlier, you talked about, going through a goal, you might have times where you feel uncomfortable. I think sometimes we end up with a lot of different competing goals. So perhaps you've got a personal fitness goal, you want to lose some weight or something like that, but you've got other competing pressures in your life, a job that's important or a family. Do you have any advice around how to deal with competing goals?
Yeah, I think it's, I always say when I'm coaching people, it's about finding your top 3 priority goals. And I believe in all the coaching that I've had and that I give, that focusing on your top 3 priority goals that are most important right now will mean that you are more likely to achieve them, and then allowing the rest of the goals to go into what I call maintenance mode. So it's not ignoring them, but it's just having simple things that would mean you're happy that you've done as much as you can do in that area. So I think if you think that I'm starting out for a new job and I want to become a bit fitter, then those are your kind of priority goals. So your family and your friends and maybe your own personal development's a little bit lower. So you work out like what's the basic things I want to do to make sure I'm happy with these, and then what do I need to do to focus on these 2 key goals. And then once you've achieved them, they might move down into, okay, so I'm just going to do my best by doing these things, and then family and fun might move up, and it kind of like flows in a wheel. And everyone that I've sort of worked with in this way has said that they found that really useful. I mean, there's obviously a lot more detail behind it, but if people just can let go of some of their goals that aren't, that they may think, yeah, I really want to do it now, but there just isn't time. choose the 2 or 3 priority ones, and then cycle the rest round.
No, I love the idea of almost relegating a goal to a maintenance goal for a while.
Yeah.
I always say that, you can achieve everything, but just not all at once. So I think that's a really nice way of putting it.
Yeah. It seems to work.
No, it's very powerful. We were also talking around, how big or small to set a goal, and sometimes playing too small or playing too big, because of trying to find that comfort zone. Do you ever find that people have maybe set a goal that perhaps is a bit too small, and you're getting closer to a deadline or an event, and suddenly the goalposts move further out? Maybe they want to achieve some more, or something's changed.
I think everybody's different. So some people tend to always set massive goals and maybe need to learn how to be more in the moment and just set mini goals and be with themselves. And then other people set tiny goals and need a little bit more accountability and courage to set a bigger goal. I think if somebody's listening to this just thinking, okay, would you like a little bit more courage to actually step outside of your comfort zone and achieve a really big goal? Or are you always achieving big goals? And have you ever just stopped and thought, what would be a really small internal goal that would add massive value to my life? And trying to do one or the other and seeing how you feel with it.
That's a great idea. Thank you. Well, I also thought about as well, the idea of self-sabotage. So, you're going after a goal, you really want to achieve something. You've worked out your big reason for being and the reason you want to achieve this goal, but somehow you keep messing it up for yourself. Have you experienced that? Have you seen that in your clients?
Oh, yeah, of course. We're all human. We all do that. I think it's our own protection mechanism. And so I think the best advice I could give to anyone is when you notice you're doing it, don't get cross for doing it. Just notice that you've started to sabotage your own success and your own progress, and then kind of ask yourself why. And maybe it's that you're doing too much. Maybe you haven't really worked out what you need to do. Maybe it's the fear of the success or the possibility of failing is too big. And I think for me it's about making sure that someone has enough time to explore the goal before they commit to it. Making sure that somebody has 2 or 3 key people who are going to support them that aren't directly like a husband or a wife or a partner or best friend or family, because normally there's a lot of emotion attached there. So you want their support, but they're not your accountability support. And then it's logging the sabotaging and going, okay, so I keep doing X. What could I do differently? And not trying to make it like super amazing, but just making it okay. And training your brain to do it differently. But for me, I say to clients, that's going to take you at least 6 weeks to train your brain to start to do it differently. And then you have to embed it into a new habit. So that's a choice and a time frame thing as well.
And I guess it goes back to being compassionate with yourself and being your own best friend and not beating yourself up too much.
I think it's about learning to like the person that you are, but equally kicking yourself when appropriate. So most people, I think, kick themselves when they need to be kind to themselves, and they're kind to themselves when they should kick themselves. So you need to flip it, and if you flip it the other way around, then that will happen. But first of all, you have to learn to understand your dynamic. So what is good about you and what is maybe your limiting state that's normal, but how can you manage it in a less limiting way?
Yeah, absolutely. Are you genuinely having a hard time, or are you just being a little bit lazy and
yeah.
As you say, you probably kick yourself at the wrong time?
Yeah.
No, that's great. Now, I know that, a lot of people, when they're setting goals, perhaps they've got they decide they want to run their first 5K or they want to do an event. If someone didn't want to compete in something, what sort of fitness goals would you think about for them?
Oh, all sorts of things. They don't need to do a competitive one at all. With all the different apps now, there's loads of things that people can do. And even if they don't like apps, just kind of aiming to, right, get out and move, move your body for an hour each day and notice how you feel. Or let's do some postural goals. If you improved your posture, would that improve your confidence? And these are little exercises to improve your posture. And then in 6 to 12 weeks, we want to take a new picture and just see how your posture is. But it's not going to go anywhere. We just want them to kind of have something that's going to make them feel better. Or do they want to wear a different outfit, or would they like to feel a different way for a different family occasion, or do they want to be a bit stronger? Do they have children? Do they want to be a good role model? There's so many different motivations, so it's kind of like finding out what that person's motivation is and how it would add value to their life, and therefore defining their fitness goal around that.
Yeah, I like the idea of, I think the first one was, just go move for an hour every day. I really like the idea of focusing on the input rather than the output, so focusing on what you can control rather than, an output like, I want to lose half a stone or something, which you don't know whether your body's going to react in the way that perhaps you'd expect to that goal. So I really like the idea of that.
Yeah, and we don't, with Energized, sometimes, maybe the goal is relevant. The sort of weight loss, the scales and things are relevant, but by and large it's not. We totally remove that, because if you're losing weight, if you're getting lighter. It's not really about that. It's about what's the motivation that's going to make you feel better, and what's the motivation that for you to be fitter and happier inside and out. So that's what we work on.
No, I completely agree with that. How about yourself? Do you have any goals at the moment that you're working towards?
At the moment, my primary goal, because I got something called Weil's disease from swimming in open water, and it's affected my neurology. So the main goal is to stabilise that and feel sort of really fit and strong in myself. And if we're talking about priority goals, that's sort of one. Number two, the business, to redefine that and get a lot of the online courses going, because we've got so much demand and request for it. And it's going to be a really interesting journey, because I've always had like fitness and adventure and exploration goals in my top 3 priorities, and kind of love that, and that's part of my identity. So it's been an interesting challenge to not have that in a priority goal for now. It's definitely there for like next year. So when I timeline things out, I sort of put loads of different ideas down, and it's there for then. And then it will just be getting back to a level of fitness that makes me feel good and strong and fit and happy. And I've got lots of different ideas for the charity side of Energize, the adventure side for me. This year I went to Sierra Leone to run the marathon, which was amazing. And I think hopefully things like that inspire my clients as well as giving me something back and raising money for charity. So yeah, it's looking for the next adventure. So yeah, lots of different things.
Wow, yeah, and I can't see that wouldn't inspire anyone. Running a marathon in any country is pretty impressive, but at that kind of temperature, I imagine it was quite a challenge.
Yeah, running is a lie. I walked after about the first hour. It was just too humid. But it was a completely humbling and amazing experience. Sierra Leone is a beautiful, beautiful country, but obviously at the moment is really challenged with the Ebola and things, and it was kind of a privilege to be there. So yeah, it was amazing, and I'm looking at different things for next year, but giving back combined with adventure and travel is definitely part of my own and business values.
Yeah, very, very good values, but I would definitely say.
Yeah.
No, that's absolutely great. Have you got anything else that you feel like you'd like to add around, achieving goals or anything related before we move on to the quick fire round?
I don't know. If someone's still listening to this, which if they are, thank you. It's just like, take a moment and sort of sit there and go, right, how do I feel right now? Like, am I really happy or am I really sad? And like, how do I feel? And just like notice that, and then don't kind of do anything. Don't then beat yourself up or whatever. Just kind of notice it and go, how would I like to refine my life right now? Like, what is it that I want to refine? And those sort of old extra sketches, you sort of twisted them and they refined the picture. It's like, what would you like to do to refine your own life? And I always say to clients, like, often they come and they're almost ready, but they're not quite. And we don't start work for like 3 or 6 months because I kind of know that we're going to come up against resistance. So sort of give them a few things to go away and think about, but we don't actually start work until I know that they're sort of ready and they're cooking. And I almost say to people, sometimes you have to be where you don't want to be, and you can't push it. You just have to be there. And then when the time's right, you've got to have the courage to actually go, right, I need to change something. And so, yeah, just trust yourself to kind of go, what is it that I need to change? And then I suppose equally, switch off all your social media and all your electronic stuff every now and then, and just like go back to old school life and just sort of tune into yourself and see how you feel then as well, because I think that's really important, because there's a lot of external comparison, and even if you're not comparing, which I think you should avoid, comparison just sabotages yourself. Try and model excellence. So if you see something that you're going comparison with, go, what is it about them or that they're doing that makes me want to kind of change how I am? Kind of digress, but don't waste time kind of on the social media and things if it's not adding value to how you want to be at your great old age in your life. That's a really long ramble, but I hope it was useful.
No, absolutely. No, I couldn't agree more. I think, social media is great. It's got its place, but at times it's constant interruptions and a constant dialogue of the best bits of everybody's life. And sometimes it's hard to realise that or understand that that's only the highlights of their life, and their life probably isn't quite as rosy, and it is real. There are those negative moments that perhaps people don't share, and like you say, comparison can be quite damaging at times.
Yeah, it generally you just sabotage yourself. So I say observe excellence, or move away from where you are.
Or turn it off.
Yeah, exactly.
And talking of social media, if anybody wanted to find out more, get in touch with you, where's the best route to do that?
Twitter seems to work quite well, which is at Kim Ingelby. Then Facebook, it's Kim Ingelby and Energized Performance. Or my websites, which are Kim Ingelby and Energized Performance. We're just updating them all so that if people are listening kind of in America or whatever, then we will have courses and things from later this year happening. But yeah, that's the best way. Just drop me an email and just say you listened to your podcast and you had a question or whatever. It'd be really great to kind of just get some feedback and answer some questions. So just get in touch.
That's wonderful. I'll pop all of the details on the blog as well, so people can just click straight through to the social media and website.
Cool. Excellent. Thank you.
No problem at all. So just before we finish up, I always like to finish on a quick fire round, just so people can get to know a little bit more about you, so nothing to do with the interview directly. Are you happy to go with that?
Yep.
Okay, wonderful. So first up, what's your favourite vegetable?
Broccoli, I would say, or peas. Peas make me laugh.
How about the last book you read?
I'm always reading so many different books. At the moment, I'm reading Nina Stibb's book on sort of letters, because I've just entered the writing competition in Elle magazine. And she's one of the judges. So I'm reading her book, and I'm reading a book about the brain. I've got a client who's just written a book, Jim Mellon, and I've just reread his book before his next book comes out. And I've just actually posted on Facebook 10 books that I really like, because someone asked me, what books do I like. But I read a lot, and I think there's great measures in personal growth for reading. So yeah, I read loads. People can ask me other books, like what book would you recommend in this area, because I've read a lot. So yeah, ask me.
Wonderful. I'll include links through to those as well then. How about your favourite relaxing or restorative activity?
I was brought up on a farm, so just wandering around. I don't live on a farm now, I live in a city, but I live near big open spaces, so just walking through the mud, up hills, fresh air, being outdoors, without a doubt, is like what I love. I also love music, photography, just sitting, talking with friends, going to gigs, that kind of stuff. Just relaxing, really.
Wonderful. What's the one online blog or podcast you'd recommend, obviously other than your own?
Most recently, I've just listened to Robin Sharma's one on the procrastination diet. That was amazing. Jill Coleman's stuff on fitness and well-being is always really good as well. There's loads of really good ones out there. I try and listen to something different from somebody different most weeks, but those are the two most recent ones that I've looked at and listened to.
Brilliant. And how about your favourite treat food or drink?
I eat a lot, which always surprises people, but I just love really, really good food, and I love cooking. Yesterday I made broccoli chocolate brownies, which were amazing. I haven't cooked for ages, like baking-wise, and they really turned out well. So I think, like my friends who've tested them and myself, that's probably going to be a favourite. Drink-wise, I just love water, always. So that would always be my number one.
Wow, I can't imagine broccoli and brownies. I might have to try that.
No, I'm going to put the recipe out at some point, but it really worked. It's gluten-free and they were amazing.
Wonderful. Great way to hide some veg from the kids then, it sounds like.
It did.
Oh, that's brilliant. Well, it's so lovely to speak to you. Thank you so much for joining us here. And as I say, I'll include all of the links for everybody to the things you've talked about so they can look up more about you and some of the books and so on that you've mentioned.
Yeah, cool. And if anybody has questions, just get in touch. That's fine. And thank you so much, Sarah, for sort of interviewing me. I hope it's been useful.
No, thank you so much for joining us here and giving up your time. Speak to you soon.
Yeah, speak to you soon. Take care. Bye.
You too. Bye-bye.